What if I told you there was a woman who could change your destiny? Not through luck, not through chance, but through a pact that demanded blood. A blind woman who saw more than the living ever could, and a wealthy heir who would risk everything to escape his family's curse. This isn't legend. This is their story.
You're here. Welcome to Story Mode. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Do stick around for more exciting stories like this.
In every city, there are stories whispered but never written. Stories of shadows, of bargains, of destinies rewritten at a terrible cost. What follows is one such story, part crime, part folklore, and part nightmare. At the center, we find a wealthy heir, Damian Crowhurst, the last surviving son of one of the region's most powerful families. But his fate became entangled with that of a blind woman named Mara, a woman some called cursed, others called blessed, and a few dared to call a witch. She was known simply as Mara. To most, she was a blind recluse who lived on the edge of the old quarter, rarely venturing into the city. But those who crossed her threshold told a different story, one of impossible knowledge, of warnings that came true, of whispers that chilled the blood.
Mara's reputation wasn't built overnight. People would go to her in secret. They'd say she could describe crimes before they were reported, or predict who in a household was going to die next. The blindness made her seem vulnerable, but that only added to the legend. It wasn't sight she lacked. It was sight no one else had.
To the police, she was a nuisance. To the desperate, she was a last hope. And to those who believed in curses, she was dangerous.
Neighbors reported hearing her speak in different voices at night. Sometimes low like a man, sometimes high almost like a child. They thought she was summoning something.
Mara called herself a vessel. She said she carried within her the spirit of an older, darker sorceress, bound to her bloodline for centuries. Whether this was delusion or truth, no one could ever say. Enter Damian Crowhurst. To the outside world, he was the heir to a fortune, the last bearer of a prestigious name. But behind closed doors, Damian's life was falling apart. Business ventures collapsed, relationships ended in scandal, and whispers of a family curse followed him wherever he went.
The Crowhursts have always had this cloud over them. They built their empire in shipping, then banking, but nothing ever lasted. There were fires, suicides, sudden deaths. Damian grew up believing his bloodline was poisoned. He was desperate for a way out.
By the time he sought Mara, Damian was convinced destiny itself had turned against him. He didn't want advice. He didn't want comfort. He wanted something more. He wanted his fate rewritten.
You've come because you think you're cursed. But curses are only chains. Chains can be broken for a price.
Damian had found in Mara what he thought was salvation. But salvation, as he would learn, is never free. According to accounts, Mara offered Damian what he sought, a chance to escape his cursed fate. But in return, she warned that destiny always demands balance. To change the course of one life, another must pay the price.
This concept is ancient. In ritual magic, nothing is given freely. To shift destiny, energy has to come from somewhere. It's like moving weights on a scale. You can lift one side, but only if something else falls.
Only days after Damian's meeting with Mara, tragedy struck. His fiancée, Eliza Morel, was found dead in her apartment. The official report listed cardiac arrest. But the details told a stranger story. Eliza was healthy, young, with no prior medical conditions. Yet her body showed signs of trauma, strange bruises, discoloration, without any evidence of assault. The family ruled it a private tragedy. The city whispered it was something else.
I was called to the scene unofficially. It didn't sit right with me. No signs of forced entry, no toxins in the system, but the bruising, it looked like hands had gripped her, though no one was there. I told my captain it felt wrong. He told me to leave it alone. Too much money involved.
Had Eliza's life been taken as the price of Damian's new destiny? Or was it coincidence, cruel and unexplained? The truth, like Mara herself, remained in shadow. Join us in part 2 as the mystery deepens. They thought the curse had ended with Eliza's death. They thought Damian Crowhurst had escaped his fate. But curses don't end, they wait. And what happened next would prove darker, stranger, and more terrifying than anyone could imagine.
Oh, you're here. Welcome to Story Mode AI. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Do stick around for more exciting stories like this.
Eliza Morrill was gone. Damian Crowhurst's star was rising. But with each step he took towards success, something darker grew around him. And the blind Sorceress who had given him everything was fading fast. After the sudden death of his lover Eliza, Damian's fortunes transformed almost overnight. Investors returned. Business deals flourished. The Crowhurst family was back on the map. To outsiders, it looked like the curse had lifted. But behind closed doors, Damian's world was crumbling.
He had everything he wanted, but he couldn't sleep. He'd call at 3 in the morning, rambling that someone was in the house, that Eliza was whispering in his ear. He was terrified, like he'd made a deal he couldn't walk away from.
Damian's paranoia deepened. He told confidants that Eliza haunted him, that shadows moved on their own, that his house was alive. The more he clung to wealth, the more haunted he became. While Damian rose, Mara fell. The blind Sorceress who had given him his new fate was now wasting away. Her neighbors reported hearing coughs that lasted all night. One swore she saw Mara vomiting blood into a basin. Another said the air around her house felt heavier, as if time itself had slowed.
There were nights you'd hear her chanting. Low, like a prayer, but it wasn't any prayer I knew. Sometimes the windows would shake, even when it wasn't windy. And Damian came by a lot. Always leaving looking worse than when he went in.
The bond between them was clear and dangerous. For every ounce of power Damian gained, Mara weakened. For every breath Mara lost, Damian's paranoia grew. Friends reported that Damian became increasingly unstable. He destroyed mementos of Eliza, burned her letters, and refused to enter rooms they had once shared. But the more he tried to erase her, the more present she seemed to become.
When you look at Damian's behavior, you see classic trauma responses: grief, guilt, paranoia. But what makes it different is how consistent other people's accounts were of the phenomena around him. It wasn't just in his head. Something was happening in that house.
In December, less than a year after Eliza's death, Damian Crowhurst vanished. His car was found parked by the cliffs. Keys still inside. The sea churning below. But Damian himself was nowhere.
We treated it as a potential suicide at first. The location, the circumstances, it fit. But we found no footprints leading to the cliff edge. No signs of a fall. No body ever washed up. It was as if he just disappeared.
Theories spread like wildfire. Suicide. Foul play. Some whispered that the Crowhurst curse had finally collected its heir. Others believed something far stranger.
In occult traditions, when a pact reaches its end, the client is claimed. Body and soul. The disappearance of Damian Crowhurst fits this pattern precisely. It's not that he left. It's that he was taken.
Some claimed they saw him in the days before he vanished, wandering the manor grounds barefoot, speaking to unseen figures. Others said he visited Mara one last time. If true, that meeting may have sealed his fate. Just days after Damian's disappearance, Mara herself was gone. Neighbors noticed her house was silent. When police entered, they found no trace of her. Only an empty chair, ritual symbols, and candles burned to ash.
I never saw her leave. No one did. But that night, I heard a voice. A woman's voice. Clear as day. It said, "The debt is paid."
Was Mara taken by the same force that claimed Damian? Or had she planned her own disappearance? To this day, no body was ever recovered.
Mara's disappearance fits with what's called the withdrawal. A witch who fulfills her final pact doesn't die in a traditional sense. She vanishes, leaves this plane entirely. Whether Damian went with her, or because of her, we'll never know.
Damian Crowhurst was never found. Mara the Cirrus was never seen again. But the curse? The curse remained. Paranormal investigators claim the Crowhurst estate is one of the most active sites in the region. Tourists report hearing whispers in the halls. Some claim to see a blind woman's shadow on the stairs.
We picked up EVP recordings here, clear as day. A woman's voice repeating, "Debt repaid." We also captured unexplained footsteps and doors slamming. It's one of the most chilling cases we've documented.
From curse to crime, legend to loss, the Crowhurst story blurs every boundary. Was Damian the victim of his own guilt? Or was he claimed by forces we cannot explain?
We never closed the case. Can't. There's no evidence, no body. Just whispers. And maybe that's all we'll ever have.
True crime demands answers. Facts, evidence, confessions. But some stories deny us closure. Some stories end not with truth, but with silence. The tale of Damian Crowhurst and Mara, the blind Cirrus, is one such story. A pact that lifted a curse, claimed 2 lives, and left behind only questions. The Cirrus is gone. The heir has vanished. But the curse is still alive. And if you listen closely, some say Mara still answers calls from the desperate. Would you risk everything for a chance to change your fate?